Hey, it's 801.
Hello.
Hey,
Cool. Let me
okay.
lower.
There's definitely like 2 seconds of lag, but that's fine.
That's cool.
Yep.
I'm trying to play like this lowest volume music possible in the background.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I didn't even realize that there's some music
Very,
playing
very,
in
very
the background.
little.
Okay, that's good. Shall we start?
Can.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with all of you today. My name is Cassie, and I'll be your host for this episode of our 30 minutes of Fireside Chat. We have an incredible guest with us today, Rachel. And we are thrilled to have her on board for our very first episode. So, our topic for today is going from school to college. But before we dive into our discussion, let's get to know Rachel a bit better. So, Rachel, could you introduce yourself to our listeners? Where are you from? What's your academy background, and what do you do now?
Sure. So where am I from? KL. Born and raised in KL. My academic background is actually, so I studied marketing and management for my degree. And I did that in the States. And then after that, I actually pursued a master's degree, an MBA, Master of Business Administration, and a Master's of Marketing
Mm.
Analytics. So that's my academic background. But I do
Yeah, so
nothing
what do you do
related to
now?
that. I'm actually a UX designer now. I
Yeah.
work in the, we'll call it like tech industry, but yes, that's what I do
Mm.
now.
Well, I would still say that a little bit relevant, isn't it? There's a creativity aspect of it for both, you know, industry.
A little bit, yeah. I think like maybe when I was doing analytics, it was a bit less so.
Mm.
But yeah, definitely with the
Yeah, that's a
marketing.
master.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. I guess let's dive into it, right? Let's start with your own college experience, right? Can you share a little bit about your journey and the challenges you faced during the transition from high school?
Sure. Where to start? I guess after high school, after SPM, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Or
Mm.
I can say like maybe I wanted to do too many things. That's why I didn't know what I wanted to do. And also my
Mm.
SPM results were not great. They were actually quite bad. And so that kind of also maybe damaged me a little bit in terms of like my confidence in being able to do certain things.
Yeah.
And so going into college, I actually just studied business because my mom was like, just study business, you can do anything after that. I'm like, okay, sure, business, my mom knows better. So yeah, that's what I did. I only picked my major when I transferred to the States. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, I just went with like a general business degree when I started. And when I started
Mm.
college, I blocked off every co-curricular activity I could think of, because I did a lot of co-curricular in high school, and I thought that
Mm.
maybe my SPM results was me, I guess, being caught up with some like too many things in school, and that's why I didn't really bother
Yeah.
to study. So initially I did that, and
Yeah.
I was pretty unhappy because it's like boring. I hate studying.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, after that, I kind of learned that there was a way to balance that a little bit. And so I started picking up some co-curricular activities and things. But in terms of challenges, there were a lot of like new skills that I was required to have. Like doing
Mm.
presentations was never something I ever did in school. Maybe now it's different, but
Mm.
never in high school. Time management, I think a lot of that is kind of done for us in school. but I guess it's pretty different in college. There's no hand holding, right? There's just like, here's the syllabus, here's the class, run with it, pass your exams.
Mm.
Right? So yeah, I think those were like some of the initial challenges that I faced.
Okay. Yeah. So you started your journey just now. You mentioned a little bit about I didn't know what I want to do. And you also talked the second challenge there where balancing between the workload in school and the co-curriculum, right? We can touch that a little bit later.
Sure.
So I wanna like, circle back to you mentioned about I didn't know what I wanted to do. I feel like, deciding on college major and career path can be very daunting for many students
Yeah.
and yeah, even like, back then me as well, right? So I'm interested to know how did you decide on your path? Like because you mentioned about you decided what you want to study after you enroll to your college in
Mm-hmm.
the States, and what advice do you have for students who are still exploring their opportunities?
I think I think that, I mean, if you go to a school where your syllabus is following like an SPM syllabus, then unfortunately I don't think we're exposed to like a lot of things. So that's why coming out of high school, you just like, oh, I have no idea, I haven't thought about it. Unless you know someone who's like a doctor, or you know someone who's like an engineer or has done something. That's the only way you learn about it in school, because you don't go out and seek that information. And the reason for that is because in school we're like horses, like we have this shield or focus. Sole focus is SPM. Let's
Mm,
ace SPM. um and that's why, coming out, I'm just like, oh, I didn't think about it, even though I was like
mm,
shielded. My SPM results didn't do well, and that's why to me it was like end of the world, like, oh my god.
mm,
um but it really wasn't, right? So I mean, looking back, definitely I went with what my parents said to, one, make them happy, two, because I trust that my mom has a best interest in my future, right? um
mm,
so
yeah.
my reasoning for going like, okay, I'll do business, is actually because
Mm,
so I did the American program. It was like American degree transfer program at the time in Sunway. And the course is actually a reason that I was quite okay to do um, business. And the reason for that is the American program is significantly different than like a UK program, right? Where you do your foundation and then you do your degree, and that's when you specialize.
mm,
But in the American program, it's actually just 4 years, right? Straight. There's no foundation, there's nothing. It's 4 years straight. And in the 4 years, um, at least I was told that you can change your major whenever you want. It doesn't matter whatever you do. Certain things will still be transferable to your new major. And so for me, that was very enticing. That was something that fit my requirements in terms of the program, because I really didn't know what to do. So knowing
mm,
that I could change major when I said that I was doing a business major made me comfortable to pursue it. And as I learned more about business, I guess it led me down a path of like, okay, this is really interesting. Something I didn't learn in school. I'm actually a science student, right, in secondary school. So it's like, these are all the interesting things that I never got to learn. And so I thought like, okay,
yeah.
this is something that I can do, and I want to try. And in terms
Mm,
of advice, I think the main thing to remember is that while it is like such a daunting thing, like so many options, like at the time it's like I have to pick something. This is what it will be for the rest of my life, right? But now looking
mm,
back, and I'm sure you will agree, your college experience is one part of your life. It does not dictate where you go with your career. um,
yeah.
if you studied business, doesn't mean you can't go into engineering. You may have a side interest, you may be really good at math, you may pick up projects, you may work with other people that lead you to different places, and that's totally okay.
Yep.
I finished my degree in business because I thought, okay, this is where I should start. And so after that, I was like, all right, I didn't like it, and I transitioned, right? So there, don't feel like it's the end of the world if you don't like it. Um, Also know the programs that you're getting into. If it's an American program, know you have that flexibility. If it's a UK program, know that you kind of have to think about it a little bit more, right? Because you're committing 3 years, and there's no turning back. Turning back would mean like starting again, which if you have the budget for, if you have the time, then good for you. But if you don't, it's
Mm,
okay. It's totally okay.
yep. I couldn't agree with you more on your advice. Knowing the program that suit you well, and so like what you study doesn't necessarily mean that like you are signed up for life. You
Correct.
can always like I think it's a skill that's important. We can touch that a little bit. So let me circle back to my second question that I really want to ask. Balancing between your schoolwork and your co-curriculum. How do you like it's a challenge for many college students, and I love going out and hang out with people, but I like at the same time I want to like score my grades
Yeah.
and exams. So how did you manage at the time? Like you have MBA, you have I know that like you also be part of in students programs, isn't it, back
Yeah.
in your college time?
Yeah.
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 And how did you manage to balance all of those goals like during your college? And you score 4.0 GPA. If I
Okay.
remember, I know that
Good
you
job.
didn't score
Okay,
as
wait.
high.
The 4.0 was for my master's degree compared to like my bachelor's degree, right? So I would say that in college I was still learning. I was figuring it out. I didn't do as well as I did in my master's. By the time I finished, my
Yeah.
degree, I kind of had it figured out. But
Yeah.
I think what it came down to was learning about what my thresholds are. Knowing that I
Mm.
only have so much energy, I only have so much time, and knowing what my priorities are, right? So at the time,
Yeah.
um, my career was number one, right? And so I know that if my career is number one, how much is the career goal that I have in mind related to what I'm studying?
Yeah.
Um, of course, in school, you're always trying to get that A, right? Like the A is very important. But now looking back at it, it's less important than the experience that you get, right? So
Mm.
if you are doing a project and things like that, those are the things that actually help you stand out more. Obviously, the class gives you the knowledge and things like that. But I
Mm.
guess the important thing is knowing your threshold, knowing what your capacity is. So
Yeah.
setting time for yourself to do the things that are important to you. Meaning like I'll spend time in my career Monday to Friday, Saturday, I'm good. I will do my social things or I will do my co-curricular activities. Um, it's just a matter of like trial and error. At least it was for
Mm-hmm.
me in college. Until you find
Yeah.
something that's comfortable for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right about the priority in learning the threshold. I think everyone has a different priority and
Yeah.
set of goals. Um, and also like different aspect of activities require different effort and your attention to it as well.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
there's
all
no
of us
right.
have 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
there's
that's
no
right.
like
There's
right
no
or
right or
wrong
wrong. Yeah.
way to do it, and that's why like I don't have
Mm,
a answer of like, okay, this is ABC step 1 2 3.
mm,
It's more like what works for you. that that's what it
mm,
is. So for me, I had to trial and error a lot. Definitely like look at what your friends are doing, look at what other people are doing, but not everything
mm-hmm.
is copy paste. Like, it's not gonna work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. Find out what works for you. So in your opinion, what skills or experiences do you believe are most important for college students, especially to develop, in order to success in your early career?
Yeah, that's a good question. So something that I feel like being in the US gave me an advantage for
Mm,
is that we are very focused as well on like career development, right? So professional development. In fact, like my
mm-hmm,
college had a like a career class that I was forced to take essentially, um,
mm,
and it taught us basically a few things. So presentation skills, like really chopping it up properly for how to do proper
mm,
business presentations. That's like one thing. Business may not be your degree, but being able to communicate, that is what I got out of it, right? um,
mm.
Communication, I think, is the number one thing that you can learn, in that you should try to learn. And I don't mean like language, right? The language is always
Yeah.
secondary. It's about professionalism, it's about how you carry yourself, right?
Yep.
If you know you have uh, a language barrier, perhaps English is not your first language, it's okay. um, I think it's just to keep in mind that it's not about what you say. Sometimes it's about how you say things. And so that
Yep.
communication element is very important when you come out to work, because that is what is A, gonna set you aside, and B, kind of get you through any hurdles or any like, I don't know, miscoms or anything, right? And that professionalism comes along with it. Like learn how to communicate professionally. Your bosses may or may not be your friends, but when you're in a work environment, things should, this is my opinion, things should maintain a professional level of communication at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not always going to be you and your friend or boss, right? You're going to be surrounded by clients. You're going to have to deal with other people.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, like, with the previous question, time management skill is a skill as well. You mentioned about professionalism and communication skill.
Yeah.
Can you give us two more?
Sure.
Yeah.
One, I think, is about diligence, I'll say. So when I say diligence, I don't
Okay.
mean like being hardworking necessarily, but more of the mental state or the attitude that like I will try my hardest, right? You don't always have to succeed, but I will keep trying, and I will keep doing my best, right? It's not like I half-ass things. And so if I don't know something, I go and find out, right? That's me doing my
Yeah.
due diligence to figure something out. And not just like, I don't know, sorry. So like that's also another communication thing that maybe we don't teach as much here. It's like when someone asks you, do you know, in a work scenario, like how do you do this? The correct answer is obviously not to lie, right? You don't want to lie in an interview, but the correct answer is not to say, I don't know, sorry. The correct answer is actually, I'm not sure right now, maybe, or I don't know right now, but the follow-up is important. But let me find out and get back to you later. But let me read a little bit more about this and get back to you later. Like there is always like, that shows the commitment, and that shows that you are diligent, and you will follow up. You will take accountability for the things that you say. So, and I guess that will also lead me to my last one, which I think I'll call critical thinking. Quite similar to due diligence and like doing all these other things, but critical thinking is a bit hard to teach, and I guess a little bit hard to learn as well. But essentially what it is like really, really thinking properly about the things that you have been asked to do, about your responsibilities, about your tasks. It's not, if I had to like just sum it up for easy explanation, it's like in my job, it's very easy for like your boss to say, here, do this, or like a manager to say, please do this, right? Critical thinking comes in when you ask questions. Why is this important? How will this affect the outcome? How is this related to the things that I've been doing previously? It's about you learning more than you maybe need to, but then perhaps answering these questions might help you solve the problem more efficiently than just doing what your manager said. Maybe your manager only knows a certain amount, but asking the questions is good for you, it's good for your manager as well. Yeah. And that's not something I think
Thank you so
is
much.
common. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Because like all the skill that you just said, it's not hard skill. It's not like technical skill.
No.
It's those skills that you can use anywhere.
Correct.
I think those are really good advice. Let me also ask you this, like, or say this, right? Because you mentioned about this due diligence and critical thinking. It's hard to learn, and also like come with the confidence as well.
Yeah.
I think at some extent, imposter syndrome and self-doubt are very common experiences.
Yeah.
Right, for many college students.
Yeah.
Especially we don't know, like we are young, we just come out, and then we are put into this like high school is our comfort zone, coming to like college, like new people, new faces, professor.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of like and sometimes I feel overwhelmed as well, and then you keep yourself, like you trap yourself, like not wanting step out, like it's really hard for some people. What advice do you have for students who are experiencing these feelings in college or even like in their early career development?
Imposter syndrome is really interesting, right? So I mean, if you don't know what imposter syndrome is, basically it's the feeling of being an imposter while holding a certain title or doing a certain job, right? Or just your self-doubt in your ability to do something, because maybe you feel that you don't deserve to be in that role, right? And I'll just say this, it's not just a college student thing, right? It's a real thing, it's a real life thing. Like me today, I feel it, all the time. Um, and I'm sure a lot of my peers will agree that it hits us sometimes. Like sometimes we just don't feel like we deserve to be here, and that's okay. I feel like maybe for some of us, it is a product of our culture. Um, we don't give ourselves enough props for the things that we do. We are not taught to, have this kind of mentality, but I think it's something that you learn, right? The thing about it, I think for me, is how I cope with is that sure, I may feel like I don't deserve to be here. There are some days that are, not great. I feel like, oh, okay, somebody else could do a better job. But what it comes down to is me actually doing the things, right? As a millennial, I'm constantly asking for feedback. That feedback is not only for me to learn more and maybe do a better job, correct the work, make sure that I'm on the right track, but it's also an assurance for me, to know that other people are like all my managers and things like that are in line with the way that okay, I'm achieving my goals, right? I don't always need to be overachieving. This is not a good mentality to have, but as long as whoever you're working with also agrees that you're doing you're on the right track, you're doing the right thing, I think these types of assurances can help prevent a little bit of the imposter syndrome. Yeah. Also, talking to your friends about it is very important. It's a weird conversation to have sometimes. But know that I guess you're not really alone, right? Like definitely a lot of people feel that. Like I have a mentor who is the CFO of a company in the States, and he talked to me about imposter syndrome when he got that promotion, right? So it's not just like us small beans coming out of college, it's like the people at the top, the CFOs, sometimes they feel it too, right? Because what we see online, what we see on social media, we're always comparing ourselves to everything, and it's the same case professionally or socially or whatever it is, right? So it's just a matter of like being aware that you feel that way and maybe talking about it, talking to your manager about it, talking to your peers about it. I think that helps.
Okay, right. Because so like today's topic is really about the transition from high school to college, right? And then like once you pass through that, the journey from high school to college, and now you're in the college. Like to me, college is, you sign up for like 3 or 4 years sometimes, or like more than 3 or 4 years. Depends on like if you do PhD or post PhD. College is just like a medium, I feel like,
Yes.
In my opinion, that prepared me for my adulthood or workplace. Like give me the tool, give me the environment that like help me to prepare for the next one, right?
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about that, because coming out of a college is a career like that we will spend like the next 30 years of our life doing the job, and it's important to do what we love to do. So I want to talk a little bit about like during the college time, how important is networking, in exploring a different career path, and also like finding the right fit, because I know that um I'm pretty sure like you've gone through like multiple different network events, and can you share a story and how it has helped you in your career?
Sure. So I think that there's like two things to answer there. So one is about networking, and then also one is about figuring out like what career is right for you. So like I said at the beginning, what you study doesn't dictate what you do for the rest of your life. Um, and that's very important to remember. I think it's something that in school I always was like, oh my god, I have to do business for the rest of my life and I don't like it, or I have to study analytics for the rest of my life. Why did I do this to myself? But that's not the case, right? College is a place for you to explore and learn and get things wrong, and it's okay. Like I think important for us to remember that. I can say this now because like I did all the panicking in college. I wish someone told me it was okay, right? And the reason it's okay to make all of those mistakes or like experimenting and doing all those things in college is because like it's safer to do it then than to do it during your career. Not to say you cannot make mistakes when you're in a job, but the I guess outcome is a little bit less significant, and college should feel like a safe space for you to try new things and learn different things. And how you go about that is by not sticking to like what you know, meaning like, okay, I'm going to study accounting, therefore I'm going to be an accountant. If that's what you want, wonderful, right? But if it's like, okay, maybe I'm not so into like accounting, but I really like finance, so like go and learn about the finance industry, learn what jobs exist, talk to people about what they do, right? Maybe you just like finance in general. Maybe you want to be in the fintech industry. That could be something completely different from accounting, but still in like a finance money type of industry, right? So
Yep.
that's a little bit now leading towards this networking thing, right? And I'll be very honest, as a very introverted person, networking is horrible.
Mm.
But very necessary, um, and very helpful, right? So I want to
Yeah.
differentiate between nepotism and networking. Networking is in when I talk about it, at least, is not for you to go and bodek someone to get a job, right? Right. So that you know people to get a job. It is a way
Yeah.
in, but the way in and the final decision should rely on you, right? Networking is
Mm.
about you learning, it's about you meeting other people,
Yeah.
learning about their companies, and maybe one day if you apply for a job there, you can ask for a recommendation, or you can ask them to refer you, and that's okay, right? Like to some degree it's fine, because it, like I said, it comes down to you. But
Mm.
yeah, to me, I've in the States it was really important, and I think it's very important here as well. But like, it's basically how I got all of my internships. Every internship I had was
Right.
through a networking experience. I
Yeah.
um would sometimes like reach out to people on LinkedIn at the time and just like ask, hey, I'm interested to learn about what you do, and so it's very casual, right? At the time it felt forced, but looking back, it was very important to be able
Yeah.
to do that, because I did learn a lot, right? Like I learned about what marketing people actually do, and I realized, all right, I don't want to do this. So it's a tool. Use it as a tool. It's not like an end. It's not your way in.
Yep.
It's more of a something that can help you along the way and help you learn as well. I think that's the important thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. It's very interesting to hear that you were using nepotism versus like networking. It's my first time hearing it, but like it's very interesting you would say that, because I think you are right. It's not a thing that like you can use it so that like you are in 100%.
Yeah.
Like no,
And I
but
think that's what some
and
people
it's
think.
uh-huh. Really?
So I have a friend who thought that if she networked, she can basically that's why she tried to network with like the high level people like CEO, and like,
Okay.
because she thought that they will give her an in to the company, which of course it opened opportunities for her, but
Yeah.
it didn't give her an in, right? He only recommended her for a job, meaning like he referred her,
Yeah.
but it was up to her,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that was not her
Yeah.
expectation. This was in the States. She actually thought that
Oh,
she would just get the job,
interesting.
like without
Mm.
doing interviews and things.
Ill.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know. It could also be a cultural thing, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Okay. You touched a little bit about mentorship. I do have a question for you on that.
Mm.
How did internship or other hands-on experience, I think like in US we call it co-ops,
Yeah.
help you prepare for your career? And can you share an example of that projects or uh internship experience that was particularly valuable for you?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, most of my internships have been a product of networking, meeting someone somewhere, and then seeing them post a job on their
Mm.
site. Um, but in terms of doing internship, it's very important, right? To me, it's very important. If you want to stand out from your peers, because there are so many people graduating with you at the same time from other universities, other places in the world, what will make you different is not what you learn in school. Because
Mm.
what you learn in school is the same thing everywhere, roughly, right?
Yeah.
But what you can bring to the table when you're applying for jobs is your knowledge of certain things that maybe you don't get to learn in school, right?
Yeah.
That's things about how to be in an office, how to actually do something as opposed to like just the theory of doing something.
Yeah.
These
100%.
types of experiences give you an edge, and also set you up for success because it lets you like test the water of a certain job, right? So like for me,
Yeah.
I was doing internships in like marketing at the time. Just like I don't want to be here. It's a good job. It's a good environment and everything. The people were great. But I was like, I don't. This is not what I want to do. Like I cannot see myself doing it. So this is again something coming back to like how to figure out what you want to do. Is like try things. The internship will let you try early instead of like graduate and then find out like, oh, okay, I don't want to do this, right? So it
Yeah.
lets you try that, and it also lets you meet a lot of people. So in another way, you're doing networking as well when you're doing internships. You meet a whole group of people. And funnily enough,
Yeah.
my final internship when I was doing my masters was a result of that. So I was doing a previous internship where I met people, and then when I was about to graduate looking for my final internship, someone that I met from a past internship recommended me, referred me to the company that I interned for. And this company that I interned for in the States basically hired me out of my grad school because I interned with them. And they took me on to do a design role without any design background. Yeah.
The investment.
Yeah.
And you just like go on, right? And now you're a designer too.
I mean, I learned a lot from that company, right? Like,
Yeah.
obviously, I when I discovered that I wanted to do, I started doing classes related to it. But it was more sort of the internship that I learned a lot, right? Like what to do, what not to do, what the work is actually like. And the people that I met there guided me. It was not like a formal mentorship or anything, but like the seniors in the company at the time like really guided me into how things work, what the expectations are, not to feel scared to make mistakes, things like that. And I don't think it would have been the same if it wasn't an internship, right? Like the expectation of an internship is that you are coming in to learn. It depending on the company, sometimes it could be like come make coffee for me, but like those are not the internships that you want, right? You want internships where they are going to allow you to do real work. They're going to expose you to that. They're going to let you ask questions and learn. And these types of internships should be training you to get that full-time job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. It sounds like a great experience you had.
It was pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, Rachel, like 30 minutes past, I'm gonna ask you the final question.
Sure.
Like, how do you see the job market in the next few years, and what advice do you have for our students who are preparing to enter it? I think that's very important.
Yeah. My answer might be a bit generic, but like I think it's something interesting to call out at this point, right? With now the rising of AI and big data and things like that, and this has always been a stance of mine, is that how to keep up with things is to keep up with technology. Technology is what's changing our culture. Technology is what's changing our lives. You may think that the AI that exists now may replace a lot of jobs, probably in the future, maybe not now, maybe even now, who knows, right? But like where it will really really thrive, because AI is so new, right? Like commercial AI, I'll call it, is so new, right? And I guess the stance for me is that it's the worst it will ever be today. It will just keep getting better. And so you as a human need to keep up with what those technologies are, what they can do, what exists, so that you know how to utilize them. Because regardless of whether the AI can do the job, someone has to utilize them. Right? And I guess keeping up with these trends in tech, in everything, regardless of your area of study, right? If you're doing art, if you're doing, accounting, like doing anything, it affects you. Like I'm sure you've
Yeah.
seen like the AI that can like paint or like come up with like illustrations and things like that. So it does affect you, and keeping up with the happenings and like I guess the news about things like that
Mm.
will help you understand a bit more about where you need to go and what you need to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All you say there is 100% because I don't know, have you heard of this phrase? It says AI don't replace you, but people who use the AI will replace you.
Yes, 100%.
That's that.
Because everyone can use
Yeah.
ChatGPT, but not everyone can use ChatGPT efficiently, properly to get outcomes that
That's
you
right.
want, right? Because ChatGPT will, I mean, at this moment in time, right, 2023, still sounds very robotic. Like you can't just copy paste it into like a script or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So you have to
Yep.
know how to
100%.
use it, and you also have to know how to use the output from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much.
Right.
There was a quick 30 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah, it went by really
We
fast.
asked all of the questions. Yeah. All right. Before I let you go, Rachel, I'm just going to do my ending here. I want to thank you for your time, and it was an amazing session filled with pack of information. I think that our audience can use in the daily life, especially with the advice that you gave earlier. So for those who are tuning in, we have some great news. This is just the beginning of many exciting events to come from Bonfire. And so like Bonfire has a mentorship program that will start accepting our applicants in May. So keep an eye out of it and if you're interested. So I hope you enjoyed the session as much as I did, and thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks.